Morning, everybody. Well, this is what the garden still looks like. We're still covered with snow. I'm starting to get a little antsy. I want to get started. So I thought I would bring you along and we'll do sort of a planning tour, because when the garden looks like this, there's nothing much to do but seed start indoors and plan for your beds. So I thought I'd give you a quick look at what beds I'm planning and what's going to go in them. And then I think this weekend we're going to shovel the snow out of the beds that you can see behind me. Okay, so this is and will be my perennial bed. I grow roses in here and bulbs and hostas. On that far arch, I have a beautiful wisteria vine that's been growing beautifully. It really likes it there. Now on this arch over here, I have started a grapevine. Last year we got about 5 clusters of grapes on it. It was very cool. But I'm not sure that it's going to do well in here for the long term. So our plans are to build a pergola over our patio and try to transplant this grapevine. We'll see how that goes. Now this is also a perennial bed. It is loaded with bee balm, which of course brings the hummingbirds and the butterflies and is also great for tea. So we're putting in some new trellises this year, and one of them will be back here. I do have some plans for these beds. There is stuff growing in here from the winter. We're going to check on that this morning. And I'm going to be shoveling the snow out of here so I can lay down some compost. Walking through a river of water. Let's take a look at what's under here. This stuff I've left in since last fall. It was doing well until we had a couple of really hard freezes, and as you can see, the lettuce did not do so well in there. This is the red Russian kale I told you about that I really love. Now that is showing a little bit of sign of promise, so I'm going to leave that in as well. The chard in the back is looking great. I think that's going to come back. I will direct sow under this cold frame in about a week. I'll put in some more lettuce. I'm going to put in some bok choy, and I'm going to put more chard in here and then use the cold frame at night, and we should be able to get a lot of spring greens. These are my trellises for peas. I have them on either side. The peas will be direct sown in about a week too. It should be staying a little bit dry for the next week, and only the nights will be freezing. So I will put peas in and cover them with hay. It's my usual routine, and I have had luck with it, so I'm going to continue doing that. We're going to expand our container gardening this year. I'm going to have containers here on this end of the garden, and I'm going to put containers here on this side of the garden. Right now, under this cold frame was all my carrots. I think I pretty much dug them all up. I'll do one last digging now that the soil's nice and soft. Now, the greenhouse is an interesting story because I had spinach growing. However, the chickens were free-ranging, and the door wasn't properly closed, and they got in here and ate the spinach, which is fine. I was overwintering the spinach, and it had grown really well. Last week you saw in a video that I was fertilizing it, and now I'm going to start again. I have soil blocks with spinach growing, and they will get transplanted in here. I also have garlic growing in here. It has just begun to sprout, and that will keep going until it is ready, probably early summer. These are my herb boxes. They didn't do as well as I had hoped they would for the winter. I'm hoping a few things will bounce back. I usually have currant tomatoes that volunteer in here and grow all over this fencing area. It really is quite beautiful, and they are delicious, so we'll see. I'm sure that they'll come up again. I usually have some rosemary in here. It looked like it did not do so well, but my thyme and oregano should be coming back. And then I'll put zinnias. I love zinnias. Zinnias will go in every space available. Underneath here are 2 Ruth Stout rows. You can see that I've started, this is the new one that I've started right here. Ruth Stout rows are basically no-dig rows. I covered this row in spent hay in early fall. There's another one under the snow that you can't see that is older. The ground just breaks down underneath it. I will put potatoes in this row and we'll put them right on the ground, cover them with hay, mound them as needed. And I had really good luck the first time I did that. The older Ruth Stout row is under the snow. So I think what's going in there, I don't know if you noticed, in the greenhouse we had some raspberry canes. I'm going to start raspberry canes in them and possibly some sweet potatoes. I'm not sure what's going to go in the rest of that. The pumpkin patch was also a Ruth Stout circle. Now this year we're going to be adding some winter squash. And I think between the 2 rows that come this way and the pumpkin patch, I'm going to build 2 more trellises. We're going to be growing those winter squash vertically instead of horizontally. Morning, ladies. How is everybody today? I usually let these ladies free range in the afternoon, and they usually find a spot with some nice warm dirt to take a bath. This is our meat chicken shaw, our chickshaw, or our movable chicken coop. I'll talk more about this when we get our meat chicks. They are set to arrive around April 15th or 16th. They're a little late this year. I will do 2 batches in here, a batch of about 8 or 9. I have kept 10. I thought that was pushing my luck in terms of space, but I'm also thinking of getting a small electric fence so that the chickens can free range in a small limited area. That chickshaw will get moved all over the yard. It completes that circle. They eat my food scraps, then they poop in my yard, and I get some beautiful green grass out of the deal. Now the chicken run has beds on this side and on this side. Last year I grew birdhouse gourds. They completely covered the run, and I grew an amazing crop. This year I'm going to put my mammoth sunflowers against the run. It helps the chickens because it gives them a shady place to be. Of course, I'll grow my zinnias, and my mammoth sunflowers will be a little safer. Last year, my mammoth sunflowers didn't do so well where I had them because we had a hurricane, and I watched them snap in half just before they started to bloom. It was heartbreaking. So they're going to go against the run, and hopefully I'll be able to tie them up and secure them if we should have some more bad weather. Now the last section is also covered with snow. This is going to get shoveled out this week too. Last year I had quite a challenge with disease on my tomatoes, so I'm going to move things around, and I'm going to put my tomatoes in these beds, the ones closest to the edge of the garden, and in this bed right here. That'll give them a new place to grow. I'm also going to companion plant them with lettuce and radishes and probably also beets. That'll help me save some space in the garden. It's also good for those plants to live together. I also have a rhubarb plant in here, and I'm looking forward to harvesting that and using that in my canning. So this is what I do in the winter when there's not a lot to do. Outside, I dream. I grab my coffee and I dream about what my spaces will look like. This space is new to us. I do have some hosta that grows up along the back near the house, and I'll probably keep that just for some border plants and dimension. We've been building our pathway, as you can see, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be our tea garden this year. I have started some yarrow and chamomile, echinacea, herbs and flowers that are good for tea making and drying. Chamomile and mint both tend to take over a garden, so I'm going to experiment with keeping them in a container. Lastly, this will be covered with a pergola, and we'll see if I can safely prune and transplant that grapevine. This patio tends to get very hot in the summer, so the pergola is not only necessary, but it'll be hopefully a great place for the grapes to grow. This house is 20 years old, and it was time for a makeover. We have taken out all of the landscaping and are going to re-landscape, and we'll show you all of the great plans we have for plants and shrubs for the front of the house. So as depressing as this might be, I'm going to go back inside and do some more garden planting and check on my seedlings and have hope. I'm going to have hope. So thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great day and happy gardening, everybody.